Good day everyone, we are from Group 3 and today we will going to delve the world of poetry. So first, what is poetry? Poetry is a form of literature that uses the interplay of words, rhythm, and sound to convey emotions, ideas, and images. It often relies on rhyme and meter. Through modern poetry may break away from these traditional rules. In poetry, words are arranged in patterns that aim to spark both emotional and intellectual responses. Unlike prose, which is straightforward and unbroken. Poetry is characterized by line breaks and a rhythm that enhances its meaning. It is a creative expression that allows for deeper exploration of the imagination and human emotions. Poetry is considered more than just a way to communicate. It is also an art form that uses precise and often musical language to create beauty. Through its unique structure and language, poetry sings to the heart and mind in a way that prose cannot. For the second question, or for the second row, give examples of poetry according to language and types. Alright, so we have language first. So in language, we have two parts. First one is imagery, which I will tackle today. So imagery, it refers to the use of language that appeals to our senses, helping us to create vivid mental pictures. In poetry, imagery can be literal or figurative, offering both concrete and abstract descriptions that enhances the reader's sensory experience. So we have first literal images. In literal images or descriptions that appeal directly to the senses, like sight, touch, sound, smell, and movement. Oh, as well as taste. So these types of images make the reader experience the world as described in the poem, with no metaphorical or symbolic interpretations required. So for the first one, visual image. In visual imagery, it involves descriptions that help readers imagine sights, shapes, colors, and experiences. The poet may describe a scene or object using colors, light, and the general visual effect. For example, the orange sun dipped low, its golden rays, stretching across the horizon, igniting the sky with fire. A soft pink glow lingered behind the distant hills, while a faint purple shadow deepened in the valley below. So in this example, the description of the sky's colors and the sun's light appeals to the visual senses. Words like golden, pink, purple, and distant all help form an image of a beautiful sunset. Second, tactile image. So for the tactile imagery, it describes the physical sensations of touch, such as texture, temperature, or physical sensations like pressure, softness, and roughness. For example, the cool, damp earth beneath my bare feet. So a rough stone pressing into the ball of my foot. The gritty sand trickling between my toes. A breezing brushing the skin, making me shiver. So here, the poet gives us a tactile experience by describing various sensations. The coolness of the earth, the roughness of a stone, and the feel of sand and breeze on the skin.
So the next is auditory image. So auditory imagery appeals to the sense of hearing. So it might suggest sounds directly or evoke feelings through the sound. So example is the crackling of the fire echoed through the night. The gentle hum of wind whispered in the trees as distant thunder rolled like the sound of a drum. So in this example, the poet uses words like crackling, hum, and rolling to convey the sound of the fire, wind, and thunder, allowing the reader to hear the scene in their mind. Next would be the olfactory image. So olfactory imagery describes the sense of things, whether pleasant or unpleasant. So smell can evoke strong emotions or memories. So poets often use this sense to create a deeper emotional connection. So example is the sharp scent of pine filled the mountain air, mixing with the sweetness of blooming lavender, while the dampness of moss and earth wrapped around me. So this passage vividly describes the smells of nature, from the sharpness of pine to the sweetness of flowers, engaging the reader's sense of smell. So the next would be the kinesthetic image. So kinesthetic imagery refers to motion or physical activity, describing how things move or how they feel when in motion. So the example is, the boat rocked gently on the placid lake, its wooden hull creaking with each sway. So the water splashed lightly against the bow as the oars dipped and rose in rhythmic dance. So this example depicts movement with the boat, swaying, creaking, and dipping through the water, appealing to the sense of motion and action. So the next would be the gustatory image. So gustatory imagery appeals to the sense of taste, describing flavors or the act of tasting. So example is, the sharp tang of citrus burst on my tongue. Sweetness from honey lingered with each bite. So the tangy salt of the sea air mixed with my meal. So here, the poet describes the experience of tasting various flavors. So the tartness of citrus, the sweetness of honey, and the saltiness of the sea air, all engaging the taste buds.
So, figurative images. So, figurative images involve comparisons or imaginative descriptions that do not rely on literal senses. So, these images help to evoke complex feelings or insights by connecting an unfamiliar experience with something more familiar. Smile. A smile is a comparison between two unlike things, using words like or as. This comparison helps to make abstract idea more tangible by likening it to something concrete. So, for example, the river flows like liquid silver under the moon, shimmering in a pale light, a mirror of the sky above. In this example, the river is compared to liquid silver, which creates an image of smoothness and shine, linking the movement of water to smoothing fishes. Metaphor. A metaphor also compares two unlike things, but unlike smiles, it does not directly without using like or as. This makes the comparison more implicit, can be more powerful in conveying meaning. So, for example, the city is in a jungle, alive with the hum of traffic and people, where the noise roars like a lion's growl. Here's the poetry compares the city to a jungle, implying both its chaotic, wild nature and its overwhelming sounds and experiences. Personification. So, personification gives human characteristics to non-human things, making them more relatable or vivid in a reader's mind. So, for example, the wild howled through the empty streets, as if they were angry at being ignored. The trees bent low, trying to escape its wrath. The wild and trees are personified, with the wild being described as howling and angry, while the trees are depicted as if they can feel fear and try to escape.
Sound patterns. Sound patterns in poetry refer to the way words and syllables are arranged to produce specific effects. These effects can influence the reader's emotional response, enhance meaning, or simply create rhythmical beauty. The two main components of sound patterns are rhythm and rhyme. Rhythm. Rhythm refers to the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in language. In poetry, rhythm is created through meter, the repeated arrangement of stress, which is strong, and unstressed, which is weak syllables. Example of rhythmical pattern. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. From I wandered lonely as cloud by William Wordsworth. This poem is written in iambic tetrameter, which consists of 4 iambs pairs of unstressed and stressed syllables per line. This rhythmic pattern mimics natural speech while creating a flow that is easy to follow. Predictable rhythm in nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes often use simple, rhythmic patterns to make them easy to remember and enjoyable to recite. Example: hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. So this nursery rhyme has a steady iambic meter, making it rhythmic and melodic. Rhyme. Rhyme refers to the repetition of similar sounds in words, often at the ends of lines in poetry. Rhyme can create musicality, enhance the mood, and help in memorization. End rhyme. End rhyme occurs when the final sounds of words in 2 or more lines match. So for example, I walked across a golden field and found a treasure none could steal. The wind whispered in the trees as I felt a calm, soft breeze. So the words field and still rhyme as the trees and breeze. So this creates a musical quality and a sense of harmony in the poem. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the initial consonant sounds in 2 or more words close to each other. It often creates rhythm and emphasizes certain sounds. Example: she sells seashells by the seashore. So the repetition of the S sounds creates a catchy rhythm and adds to the playful nature of the line. Assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds within nearby words, which can create smooth or harmonious effect. So for example, the early bird catches the worm. So the repetition of the E sound in early and bird, or the A sound in catches and worm, produces a gentle musical effect. Consonants. Consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds within words, often with a variation in vowels. So for example, the lumpy bumpy road was hard to bear. So the B sound is repeated in lumpy, bumpy, and bear, creating rhythmic and emphatic effect.
So now let's delve into the types of poetry. So the first one we have narrative poetry. So narrative poems tells a story in a verse, often following a clear structure of setting, character, and plot with a focus on events that build to a climax. Ballads are a classic form of narrative poetry that is especially popular in traditional storytelling. Next we have ballad. So a ballad is a type of narrative poetry that typically features a straightforward, often tragic storyline. The traditional ballad form has 4-line stanzas with alternating lines of 8 syllables on rhyming second and fourth lines. Example, the Ballad of the Highwayman by Alfred Noyes. So the wind was a torrent of garbage. Among the gassy trees, the moon was a ghostly galleon, tossed up upon a cloudy seas. So this famous ballad tells the story of a tragic love between a highwayman and the landlord's daughter, and the dramatic consequences that follow. Another type we have lyric poetry. So lyric poetry expresses the poet's emotion, thoughts, and reflections, often with a musical or rhythmic quality. So this form of poetry tends to focus on personal feelings rather than a narrative story.
And there are some examples of lyric poetry. First, we have haiku. So a haiku is a traditional form of Japanese poetry with a syllable structure of 5-7-5, typically focusing on nature and the human experience. Example for this is a haiku by Matsuo Basho. An old silent pan, a frog jumps into a pan. Splash! Silence again. So this haiku captures a simple moment in nature using metaphor to evoke a deeper understanding of life's fluidity. Next we have sinking. So sinking is a 5-line stanza with a specific syllabic pattern often used to convey a brief descriptive image or emotion. Example is a sinking by Adelaide Capsey. Snow is melting. The water flows into the evening streets. The moon. This refrain uses a series of brief, evocative phrases to describe a scene of melting snow and the transition of water flowing through the streets under the moonlight. Next, we have sonnet. A sonnet is a 14-line poem traditionally written in iambic pentameter with a specific rhyme scheme. A Shakespearean sonnet, also called an English sonnet, follows a pattern of A-B, A-B, C-D, C-D, E-F, E-F, J-J. So example, Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's bliss hath all too short a day. This well-known sonnet expresses the poet's admirations and love comparing the subject to a summer's day, but declaring that the subject is even more beautiful. Another we have limerick. So a limerick is a 5-line humorous poem with a distinct AA, BB, A rhyme scheme characterized by its playful rhythm and light-hearted subject matter. Example is a limerick by Edward Lear. There was an old man with a flute. A serpent went into his booth, but he played day and night till the serpent took flight and avoided that man with a flute. This limerick is a typical of Lear's whimsical and humorous style with playful language and amusing story.
Free verse. In free verse poetry, does not follow a set rhyme or meter, allowing the poet to use free-flowing language and personal rhythms to express feelings, observations, or ideas. For example, a free verse poem by Walt Whitman, From Leaves of Grass. So it goes like this. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. So this example of free verse, it reflects Whitman's personality philosophy with no fixed meter or rhyme scheme. Instead, focusing on the fluidity of thought and
Last would be the concrete poetry. So concrete poetry is a form of poetry where the arrangement of the words on the page forms a visual representation of a poem's subject. So the shape or structure enhances the meaning of the poem. Example is, imagine a poem where the words are arranged to look like a tree. So the poem might be about the tree's growth, with the lines of poetry branching out to symbolize the tree's branches, growing wider and more complex as the poem progresses. In this format, the visual presentation of the poem reinforces its thematic content, so creating a multi-sensory experience for the reader. So that would be all. Thank you.